Lesson 3, the project management cycle. Project management phases. They are 6 phases in project management, and they are part of the definition of what we know about project management, that every project has a beginning and then it has an end. These 6 phases are the phases of to initiate, plan, implement, monitor, adapt, and then close the project. But it is not happening in a linear process. They happen on a cyclical. Let's see a little bit out of that process. Also, these phases, they occur with different levels of effort. So the amount of work that you need to do in each phases will be different. At the beginning of your project, in the initiation phase, there's going to be very little work because that is the moment when you have now a project manager assigned to the project, and he's organizing the team, organizing the work, getting ready. Then the second phase is the planning phase. So that's a little bit more work because the team is going to be working on developing all those plans for all those 9 processes that we saw in the previous presentations, so that the team will have the instructions and the detailed plans to implement. Most of the work that happens is here in the implementation and monitoring phase. That also includes the adapting phase. We're going to know more about that in the next slides. And then all that work, then you start completing the work and then finishing, and then you end up, and then you have your close phase with, again, very little effort. So this is our cycle, the project management cycle that we will use in this course. The initiation, once you complete the approval of the project, the assignment of the project manager, and then they get all the elements needed. Then once you have your team, you start the planning. And this is the cycle that happens in this process. You have the planning, then you implement the work, you monitor the work, and if there are any changes or modifications that you need to do, then you go into the adapt phase where you make all those changes and you get approval for those changes. You update those plans, and then you can implement again. And that is the cycle that happens. Once all the work's been done and there is no more to monitor, then you can close the project, or in some cases close a phase or a cycle of the project. There could be many cycles in the project depending on the size and complexity, but each cycle, the idea is that there are elements of these phases. So you have initiation, the planning, implementing, monitoring, adapting, and then closing in your first cycle. And you can happen that again and having a second cycle going through the same process and the same phases. The idea is that depending on the risk and the length of your project, you might break down your project into cycles. The idea again is that they provide you with opportunities to constantly improve the project. By learning from the work that the team is doing, you can find opportunities to be more efficient and improve and make modifications to your plans and your methods to implement the project. There is a difference between the project cycle and the project management cycle, and it's important that we understand that in this course. What we have normally is that when a project is initiated, there is a set of people in the organization who are in charge of the designing, the proposal, and the funding. Once you get approval and you get the funds, then there is an assignment of a project manager who's going to be in charge of all those phases that we saw before. And then there's going to be also another team, another group of people who are going to be in charge of the evaluation on the audit. This is the project cycle, so it encompasses a lot of people in charge of the elements of those components of the project. But the project management, there is only one person who's held responsible. Let's look in more detail the project cycle. In the project cycle, you may have somebody who's in charge of the programming. That is the alignment of the strategies of the organization to the donor or the country. Then there is the analysis of the problem. And then there is the design of the project that includes the proposal and approval of the funds. Then there is the implementation. Then there will be an evaluation cycle. That will be the critical components of our project cycle. But in the project management cycle, as we saw before, there is only one person responsible for that. That person has a team, and he's going to be responsible for all these phases that we saw before that are part of the project management. So it's important that we have a good understanding of those differences. And in this course, we're going to be looking more about the project management cycle.